Welcome to our session on reframing family engagement using Black epistemology with the perspectives from Black families. We know all over the country, every school and school district believes that family engagement is critical to the success of the school and the success of the children. However, we also know that the perspectives they use to frame family engagement are all based in ideas around white households and white privilege. Rarely is there anything involved in family engagement that focuses on the Black families, their assets, their culture, their identity, and what does it mean to engage them in the schooling of their children. Rather, they are often used as something to attack and as a scapegoat for the school failure. This group of presenters you have today asked the question, what would it mean if family engagement were based on the perspectives of Black families? And they will present to you today the work that they did to interview, listen, and to codify the ideas from Black families to develop a framework for family engagement.
There's a lot of history in Memphis, and there's a lot of people that are very proud of that history in Memphis. And people are very tied to their schools. They have family, they have generations that have gone to the schools that they go to. There are some who will live in one part of town and will make sure that their child is going to the school where their mother might have gone or their grandmother might have gone.
I've been in this neighborhood per se almost 19 years. I wouldn't send my children to another school. Like as of right now, I stay nowhere out here. We stay like 45 minutes away from here. But I wouldn't have my children going to any other school but this one.
Our system is very unique in Memphis. We now have something like 7 systems that exist within the Shelby County sphere. You have charter schools, you have ASD or Achievement School District charters, you have Shelby County School charters, and then you may even have state authorized charters, and then you have traditional schools, which are Shelby County schools. So you have systems within systems.
As we started the process of our landscape assessment, and we're very intentional about making sure that we spoke to the families, spoke to the people that we say we respect their capital. You know, the context started to be formed of what people really were thinking. And they created what our framework ended up becoming.
So if we're starting with parents at the center, and if we're starting by centering and acknowledging the value of African American ways of knowing and being, and if we want to center parents as experts on their children, and the collective knowledge that communities can bring to bear to improve schools, then let's do just that.
So we've used that tool, and when sitting down, the data was like amazing to have, because every school I've been in, I know how to create the culture. I just never wrote it all down. So the tool created that blueprint for me, and created a blueprint for my staff. So you can, just like a checklist. When you walk into the main office, how is that? Is it warm and inviting? Like, what are the parents saying about this? Or how is this situated? What will parents think about that? The first thing was just creating an environment. When you walk in, you can feel the warmth. You can feel it. The hallways feel quiet. The rooms feel engaging. The conversation can be tough sometimes, but it's out of love. And the teachers know that. You will be expected to kind of create that kind of warmth and kind of environment where you just know the kids and know their families.
Once you come inside of either one of these schools, they make you, feel like we all family, I mean, if something is going on, you can call and talk to them like, they'll even go out the way. You don't find a lot of schools that go out the way, to help parents and to help the students. And I'm so grateful and so thankful to have these people around me and in my life. I wouldn't dare send my daughter nowhere else.
I like Fraser Community School. The teachers, I like the teachers. And they always have worked with me. They always have encouraged me. They would encourage me, and I would encourage them.
I would describe my relationship as like almost like an extended member of a family, because, just being at school, that's not the only time you're gonna hear from me, like, over the breaks or any, situation where the child is like, gone away from us for too long of a time. I'm calling, I'm checking on them.
Within 5 to 10 years, we hope to be true that each school is consistently demonstrating excellence in those responses from parents, that the preponderance of parents say that I feel included when folks are making decisions about my child's learning. That parents are consistently saying that we feel plugged in. My name is Rashetta Watkins, and I am the project manager for the Family Centered Schools project. And I have worked with the project since before the beginning, before we got the fellowship with Flamboyant. And so was a part of the project when we were initially collecting voices, doing focus groups and interviews with Grass Tops leaders, school board commissioners, school administrators, to test and see whether there was a need for something like this to gauge family engagement.
So we started thinking back in October of 2017, who do we need to talk to think about what that means? So during October and November of 2017, we held focus groups and interviews with the various stakeholders.
I am Dr. Bobby White, founder and CEO of Fraser Community Schools. I am super excited about family-centered schools as the secret sauce of schools in our country in a way that we have never really thought about before.
We talked to the school board members, we talked to school board administration, we talked to charter school leaders, we talked to people who might have had some sort of connection to the school but was also a parent. We talked to community leaders.
My name is Stephanie Love. I'm a mother of 4, 2 adult boys and 2 school-aged children. I've lived in the Fraser community, Raleigh community, and even grew up in the Millington area. In all of those areas, I most definitely represent as a member of the school board.
And we did all of this to make sure that we were actually hearing about what does authentic family engagement mean? What does that look like? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the barriers?
We know that family is so important, and the school is only as strong as the connection that it has with the community and with the families.
We administered surveys for students to ensure that we had all voices, not only the family voices, but also students' voices in particular, because this is something that absolutely impacts them. Fast forward to June and July of 2018, we conducted surveys with the community. We did this through going to some of the community organizations like the Rotary Club. We also went, there was a Day of Peace rally that was put on by students in the Klondike Smoky City area, and we did surveying there.
My name is Aixa Marchand, and I'm an assistant professor at Rhodes College here in Memphis, Tennessee, in the Ed Studies department and the psychology department. I joined the team through a Mellon grant that I had written, and I'm helping with the data analysis and the data collection.
Then in November of 2018, we had the initial meeting of a parent advisory council.
My name is D.R. Disbarber III, and I'm the proud principal of Grandview Heights Middle School. And it's an honor for me to share with you today our experiences with the Family Centered Schools Assessment Project.
In February of 2019, we had a meeting with the principals of the pilot schools to review the prototyping plan.
My name is Antonio Harvey. I am the Family and Community Engagement Manager for Shelby County Schools. As I reflect on the Family-Centered Framework project, I believe it was a perfect marriage between two organizations that had noble intentions.
We had 3 charter schools and 2 traditional Shelby County schools.
My name is Quincy Morris. I'm the Executive Director of the Klondike Smoky City CDC. I can remember the time when family participation or parental involvement in our school system was upmost.
In March and April of 2019, we administered pre-surveys to parents, teachers, and principals.
Literally, I just wanted to create an environment in the school to whereas a parent shouldn't have to leave the community to get a great education for their child.
In May and June of 2019, we reviewed those results with the school leaders, and each school developed their plan for the 2019-2020 school year.
After hearing the voices of the families, we saw a broken system. And in order for this to work, it has to be rebuilt based on the family's cultural, social, economic, and spiritual beliefs.
In September through April of 2020, we implemented the school plans. And in May of 2020, we administered post surveys to parents, teachers, and school leaders.
This project afforded us the opportunity to evaluate and assess our approaches and our practices in having family engagement with our parents. What we came to learn was that many of the practices that we were employing did not actually deliver the effective results and impact that we wanted with our interaction and relationship with our parents.
We had 5 people that we could invite to be a part of the team. However, I thought that it was very, very important that we have the right people around the table, that we began to have the right people who are not just coming to the table with it already said, but who are actually engaged in being a part of making the menus.
I am Lakeithan Mason, founder of Memphis Filmworks, an organization dedicated to exploring the art, life, history, and culture of the Mid-South. I am honored to be a part of the Family Centered Schools project and passionate about preserving our neighborhood and community assets. I believe family engagement is a living, breathing part of the culture, systems, and structures of a thriving school. It is also an important factor in creating healthy, vibrant, and sustainable communities that go well into the future. Without successful partnerships between families and schools, our very neighborhoods suffer.
We began to think about what the key levers were in ensuring that children graduate on time and career and college ready. So all of the research says that it's absolutely one of the key levers is that you have family involvement and engagement. You have authentic, meaningful family engagement.
As we embarked on this journey with Flamboyant 2 years ago, I was super excited about the opportunity to build out what engagement looks like with families in a very intentional way.
During this process of building this assessment framework, we did a lot of work. So in May of 2018, we had our preliminary map of the relevant common themes and that we had gotten from our October and November focus groups.
Those initial focus groups and interviews overwhelmingly demonstrated that there was a breakdown in trust that had led to an erosion of family engagement in schools. And that was voiced from both sides, from both parents and from school administrators and grass top leaders who were involved in education advocacy across lots of different sectors in Memphis. And so the family-centered schools process grew out of that.
Far too often, schools want to hear from parents, but then don't do anything with that information. So we want to ensure that we are hearing parents and then also acting upon what we hear them saying.
I decided to become more involved because I saw firsthand the challenges that my very own children were dealing with, and also the challenges that other mothers were dealing with who looked like me and who went to the school system for answers, but we received nothing. So doing this walk, I decided that there was more that I know could be done.
The family-centered framework gives us the leverage to be able to actually utilize parents' voice and make sure that the parents and the members of the community are really heard.
The Family-Centered Schools Initiative focuses on building meaningful relationships, amplifying family voice, and creating fruitful conversations for generations to come.
With family-centered schools, one of the things that we heard over and over again from the parents is that there was a lack of communication. You hear me, but you don't really hear me. You see me, but you don't really see me.
PTA meetings were good. Parent-teacher conferences, they were great. But there was an opportunity presented where I would be put in a position where I could advocate with other parents like myself and other parents who had challenges like myself.
One thing that we have to do is to really listen to what our families are saying and to be able to provide the resources that they need. And I think that by looking at this framework that we created, it's a family-centered framework, and it really supports our families in regards to how they want the schools to support them, how they want the schools to actually interact with them so they can be more of an integral piece involved in the student learning process. And this has been done to allow that to occur. So I think that when you think about communities that we're servicing, it's very important that we're sensitive to the needs of our communities and be able to provide them with the needs after they have addressed those to us.
Families want to be helped, but we must meet them where they are. And this is important to use the voices that we heard, because this happens too many times. How else could we expect to develop an effective standard based on family engagement and not hear the voices of the families?
As parents, when we walk into a school building, we want to be recognized. We want to be acknowledged. We want those who are charged with caring for our children to know and understand that we are most definitely sending our prized possession to you every single day. And we want to be treated with respect. We want to be treated with compassion. And we most definitely do not want to be judged because of the neighborhood or the zip code we live in.
And so as I think about this project as a district leader, it really allowed me to think about how I was using my resources and how to use those resources and mobilize them more effectively to improve student achievement.
And then be able to say, here is what families are saying. And as a result, we can start to replicate this, build out this as a model inside of schools, hold principals in schools and faculty at those schools accountable, and be able to ensure that our students and our families are getting the best of what they need.
And so when I came in as the principal, I just tried to get and recruit the best possible teachers, create the systems, and to try to do everything right to nurture the kids that over here, because we got some brilliant kids over here. And I think it means that much more to me because it devastated me. Like, we don't think at school as school. I tell the kids often that this is a generation builder. It was a generation builder for me.
We know that American schools are based in white ideology, that the curriculum used in schools does not reflect Black history, Black knowledge, and Black identity. Most school districts in the country have very few Black teachers or Black leaders. So this is an opportunity to say, how would it be different if, in fact, the perspectives of Black families influence the way that the collaborations and partnerships are created between schools and families.
A lot of parents leave the neighborhood schools because they feel like their children are not getting what they need out of their community. And when the neighborhood schools lose numbers, the services and the resources are not provided to their school, which puts us as parents in a position to where we no longer either want our child to attend that school or we look for other options.
We have gotten away from our cultural issues. What makes a little black boy tick, I don't think it's understood in the real world today.
It was very important that when I came back and became principal to create the environment to nurture that growth and exposure for kids to change their generation, because it's definitely have changed mine.
The idea was, let's go back to our foundational principles. Let's go back to the values that underlie the framework. First and foremost, parents are experts on their children. And secondly, there is wisdom in the collective experience of our community.
The collaborative experiences of home and school life reinforces productivity, partnership, and commitment, while also welcoming everyone to the table to make sure we are lifting everyone up in our community, interrupting the perils of bias, challenging negative assumptions, and discontinuing barriers that are hindering our future success.
One of the things that I often say is all great schools have a principal that engages families in a way that just becomes magical. But nobody really is able to put their finger on exactly what they do. People just know that they do it. And so I saw this as an opportunity to engage families, to find out just what did that look like at a very high level.
In one research study I conducted, the families referred to going to the school office as just one other slash on their sacredhood, on their identity and their persona every time they go. They would rather not go than to experience what they call the suburban put down, the way that they are looked at and the way they are judged. They would rather do what they can for their children in their homes. It is a huge misconception that Black parents, parents who live in poverty, parents who work multiple jobs, parents who are essential workers, don't care about their children. They care deeply. They want to be respected, regarded, and viewed as a resource and an asset when they enter schools.
I think that in the real world today, we think all little black boys were born to be hoodlums and thugs and robbers, murderers, and not respected to have the knowledge or the ability to be lawyers, doctors, computer programmers, filmmakers.
And this is important to use the voices that we heard, because this happens too many times. How else could we expect to develop an effective standard based on family engagement and not hear the voices of the families?
I think we are approaching education today in a different mode, because what fits the mold for one of my boys might not fit the mold for one of your boys. So what we've got to do is to find a model that will help our children accomplish the things that we know they can accomplish, because we know we got some geniuses. We know that. It's just that they are undiscovered. And no one puts enough time, because they don't have time in this classroom. They got to stay on target. And up until we get off target, then we're going to go around and around in this circle.
As a profession, I prepare future teachers for America's schools. And no matter how hard we have worked, particularly in urban school districts, to help future teachers understand the value and assets that Black families bring, we have not been able to dislodge their beliefs that families don't care, that they don't care about their children and they don't care about their children's education, which is a large misconception, often referred to as the war on Black parents. Instead, parents care deeply, engage in the ways that they can, and often choose not to engage because of the way they are treated when they enter schools.
Schools should view parents as an asset because we are bringing the most important people in our lives to the schools every day. We should not be viewed as a liability, but we should be viewed as a partner in this educational system.
When my children were in school, back in 1991, when I read the book Beyond the Cake Bake Sale, where parents should be involved. All parents want their children to have a good education. They want to be involved in their children's education. And that book inspired me to work harder with my children and other people, other parents, because they might had to work and could not go to the school. I became an advocate back in 1991, and I have been involved in families and working in the community, and it's very important that our children get the things that they need through family participation.
The teachers told my parents, my dad specifically, Fraser High School is not for him. He needs to go to, he needs to attend Central, White Station, what have you. Fraser High School is not going to challenge him. The schools in this community aren't what they need to be for the ability that your son has. My dad said, son, you're going to go where you can walk. There were a number of us whose parents felt the same way. The school had a balance of talented folk, just the gambit of all types of students. And as a result, there was a strength. There was a pride of we're all in this together. You know, we weren't up in deciding that, oh, you know, I'm gifted or I'm talented and I'm going to go to White Station. No, I'm 38127. I'm Fraser. This is where I'm going to be. And we're going to make this school great. I thought that 20 some odd years later, when the opportunity presented itself for me to have the opportunity to do this work and take over the high school that I once attended, that everyone told me wasn't good enough. If I was able to take the parents who are here now and the families who are here now, empower them. You know, we changed the name because I thought it was time. I thought the parents that are in this community now need to hold on to something that they built. They birthed. That we could actually create this new type of pride in the community. People always talk about going back to the way things were. Well, no one really knows what it was. The community that is here now, I wanted them to take pride in building something new here now based on all of the things that I thought about and how people saw our school then.
I am a product of North Memphis. I was born in North Memphis, and this school is my dad's alma mater. So he went here for a junior high, and my aunts and my uncles. And it feels so great to be able to come back and serve as a leader here at this school. It adds to the commitment, not only the commitment to be an effective school leader, but also in a commitment to make sure that this school, Humes, is at the top of the charts, because I want to greatly serve the school that my parents and my family attended.
It's very important that we really become sensitive to the concerns of our families and their needs, because as they are supported, they become more effective in the ways that they support their students and their children in the schools.
As an anti-racist change agent, supporting standards instruction and educational equity, I feel is my obligatory responsibility to advocate not only in the school paradigm, but also in the arena of our societal norms.
So when we can come together as a community, as parents, as a school, and even our students, because our students have voices, we can make sure that we are providing lifelong support for our children here and when they leave this educational system.
The framework itself took shape based on the themes that arose from the top of surveys and interviews and focus groups with families and parents and community members.
It's important that that we set guidelines, because the most well-intentioned school might think that they have the appropriate relationship with the parent or with the community or family-centered, but we discovered there was something missing because parents did not feel welcomed in schools. And parents, if you go into an office at some point in time, you did not get the respect that you deserve. And I don't know if it's because the schools have a lot on their plate, but I do know that there should be open communications and real communications, meaningful relationships. Because if we don't have meaningful relationships in our schools or with our families, then the end product is not a good one.
So in the first year, the idea was let's survey parents based on the pillars of the framework that were identified, the 5 principles, and let's take the temperature of what's going on around family engagement in these 5 schools. ACOMA, open communication.
Some people or some teachers might have real communications or real relationships with certain people in their parents within their classroom, and they might have open communication with certain parents within their classroom. But it should be open and real communication, ACOMA, open love with all families, and real relationships with all families.
In consent. Build real relationships.
We might not be as open with Miss X because she doesn't have a job, she's on welfare, or she's receiving assistance. We're not as open or have a good relationship with her as we do with Mrs. Z, who has a job, who works every day and have a strong involvement within her child's education. And I think that it's incumbent upon the schools to try to develop these open, real relationships.
EBON, welcoming and compassionate spaces.
Basically, it just means respectful, non-judgmental. As an African American mother, the color of my hair should not put anyone in a position to question my level of intelligence or how I feel myself or my children should be treated in the school.
AYA, Support for families.
There is a lack of support in school and home. There is a need for the school to be a resource center. Families want to be connected with community resources that can assist their families. They spoke and we listened. Our African American families identified to us how they envision family engagement should look like through their lens and not ours. Oftentimes, there are people sitting around the table that has never sat at their table.
Sankofa. Honoring family voice.
And that simply means that we will learn from our past and not make the same mistakes that we made in the past. When parents come to us and express their frustration with some of the decisions that schools have made without receiving input from them, we will work together to ensure that we honor the voices of parents, diverse voices of parents, to ensure that we can make our educational system as pleasant as possible.
In these unprecedented times, we were able to bring our families together in a way to where they were able to celebrate a moment that is undoubtedly in many of their families the greatest moment that will ever happen in the generation of their families. I felt a sense of pride of us getting away from the traditional boundaries that have kind of boxed us in over the last few years. I don't know if many of you all know, but graduations now are families get 10 tickets. They're asked to come into a hall. They're asked to be quiet, hold their applause, and they're not able to celebrate the way that it should because we want order and decorum. Well, all that aside, this new way of seeing graduation and matriculation through high school in a very celebratory way is something that really, really excites me, excites our families, excites the community, and it's a part of being family-centered.
Then as the spring of 2020 was rolling around and we were going to wrap up that first year and do the post-test for that first year, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And we had to pivot. We had to rethink what we did. We pulled back initially because we said school teachers and administrators and parents need the space to navigate this moment. And then over the course of the summer made plans for re-entering the schools, no one thinking that it would last as long as it has. As the beginning of the school year approached and it became apparent that in-person instruction was not going to be possible in this environment, initially we wondered, well, how do we enter schools? What is our point of entry now?
Something I really, really appreciate about the framework as it stands is it's flexible, right? So even in the midst of this pandemic, during COVID times, we were able to sort of adjust and realize how is it that we want to gather these parent voices. So we value what we hear and we want to make sure that we can then translate it so that administrators and school leaders can use it.
One of the things that happened during COVID-19 was us knowing that our families were challenged with a number of issues. The challenges that everyone is facing, furloughs, layoffs. Our families just were overwhelmed by us committing certain staff members to make sure that they contacted them on a daily, weekly basis to see what they needed, what their concerns were, not only academically, because yes, we continue to try to have an academic life, but more importantly to me, as I say, we're the DNA and the lifeblood and the oasis of hope in our community, was the fact that we were able to reach out to families, and when they said, we need this, we had partners, collaboration, and commitment to the community to be able to connect them with the pieces, afforded them the opportunity to be able to overcome some of those challenges that they were facing during COVID-19.
Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, our students and their families were already struggling with the demands of living life, providing for the basic necessities of life, which often made school a hardship. That hardship now has been exacerbated. And in a virtual learning where students have now been provided devices, what I'm finding is that often the students are the experts in the home on those devices. And many times the parents are not able to fully support their students' learning in this virtual setting that we're in. So that leaves us at the school level to not only be present at the school, but to find ways to be virtually present, even in the home, to assist with connection and access to learning.
For me, some of the needs that we've had have been concerns around housing, concerns around assistance in regards to utility payments, things of that nature. As a school community, it's important that we find those kind of resources and support those parents in those needs. And so we've done those things, helping parents who may have been homeless. And as you know, when a child is not able to have the basic necessities met, then it's very difficult for them to be effective in the classroom.
We have infrastructure problems here in our local community where 75% of my students and their families don't have access to broadband internet. The district has done a great job with providing hotspots, but in many of our living situations that my families and students live in, you have situations where there are multiple students in multiple grade bands in a household. I had one situation where a parent expressed to us that they were having problems with connectivity and accessibility issues because there were 7 children in the apartment trying to use one hotspot. Each child had a device, but a device is not too helpful if you don't have accessibility to the internet and broadband internet.
As we come out of this COVID right now, and as we come out of everything that's going into systemic racism, I think that we will eventually have a better system where we will be able to have a level playing field. I don't think that we're asking for anything but equality and justice.
For many of my parents, often their technology expertise resided in the areas of smartphones, Facebook, Instagram. We're using Microsoft Teams, which has several applications and features that I'm becoming aware of and I'm still learning about. So it's a learning process. We know the educational process is a learning process. The problem is that too often our students, Black minds, have been at the end of that process and now speeding up and advancing in a virtual space, it puts them further back.
One thing that we have to do is to really listen to what our families are saying and to be able to provide the resources that they need. And I think that by looking at this framework that we created, it's a family-centered framework, and it really supports our families in regards to how they want the schools to support them, how they want the schools to actually interact with them so they can be more of an integral piece involved in the student learning process. And this has been done to allow that to occur. So I think that when you think about communities that we're servicing, it's very important that we're sensitive to the needs of our communities and be able to provide them with the needs after they have addressed those to us.
School, wrap around the family. Community, wrap around the school. City, county, wrap around community and school. State, federal level, wrap around all these entities and give us the funds that we need to support our families, and we will have a better city, a better state. Yes, the children are our future. However, we must take a holistic approach and support the entire household.
As a school leader serving the community of Grandview Heights Middle School, I have to find and search often for the voiceless voices. That might sound like an oxymoron, voiceless voices. Our students, our families, often are crying out for help, crying out because they want the best for their child, but maybe don't have the ability to know how to articulate and advocate for the best. I must hear those messages and in turn be the voice for the voiceless.
You have to listen to them and respect their ideas. And I think that if we would get out of our silos, and that will make it better.
We're living in unprecedented times due to the pandemic and due to the safety safeguards that we have in place right now. So right now we're living in a digital age. We started with this, I think it's not as hard of a push because we were moving towards a one-to-one model within our school where students are used to using technology daily in their classrooms. But also when you're thinking about that, you have to go beyond the students. You have to really think about the parents as well. How comfortable are the parents with utilizing this technology? That was one of our barriers that we had as we transitioned into this school year. However, some of the supports are directly related to the concepts that we learned during the framework, which it means that we have to include everyone. So it's not just us teaching the students, it's us working with the parents as well. And we've actually come together, they come to the school for tech support. They come to the school for tech support. We talk to them frequently on the phones. We communicate by text message and email. It's just an open line of communication. Again, aligned to the framework, align with it, but also, using that in real time. So we use the framework to our advantage with it, with open communication.
My commitment is grounded not only in the concept that Black lives matter, but also Black minds matter. And I'm committed to advancing the intellectual and understanding capacity of the Black minds that we serve at Grandview Heights Middle School. We have a mantra at Grandview Heights Middle School where we say, love Grandview Heights Middle School, Oso Vu, which stands for one school, one vision, united. And although COVID-19 has us learning in a virtual space, we have not given up on our commitment in making sure our students get the actual, individual learning experiences that they rightly deserve.
Given our current environment and state of the world, we must lean on one another to keep our communities safe, prosperous, and on track to producing future doctors, lawyers, engineers, artists, and educators.
There's a new system being created where everyone is included. And as a parent, especially as an African-American parent living in the inner city, my voice matters, my voice is important, and my children matter to all those inside the school building.
Through family-centered schools, we expect for legends to be born, where our students embody all of the principles, put them together, and end up doing great things, special things, legendary things. Things such as Our Baby's going viral and being highlighted on the Ellen Show as a result of their act of kindness. This doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens as a result of family-centered schools and all of the principles working in combination and being executed where students embrace them as being who they are. If we do this, and these daily values are instilled consistently, then that secret sauce that we talk about, this game changer in public education, something that folks don't talk about, the piece that I feel like will keep us from mass producing laborers and prisoners, we have it. And it's having family-centered schools, being legendary.
We will have to begin to rethink how we implement authentic and meaningful family engagement. We also are involved in making sure that we are evaluating and documenting the work that we are doing. And that is a second phase of the work that we are doing and plan on doing during the 2020-2021 school year.
And so together with some wonderful new additions to the team, Dr. Aixa Marchand of Rhodes College, Dr. Whelan Seraphin of University of Memphis, and filmmaker and documentarian Lakeitha Mason, it was decided we would continue to do just what we had done. We would collect voices. We would collect stories of how parents and families and school administrators and teachers are navigating this moment. So this is an important archival moment. It's an important moment in documentary history to actually track how people are walking this path in the moment. And then we are going to take the benefit of that expertise and reap those stories for their evidence. Evidence of what parents are saying is important to them in this moment, evidence of how family engagement is being played out in this moment, so that school administrators and teachers can learn from that the underlying foundational core principles that they need to make sure that they are always infusing into their school environments so that they can be ready, whether it's a regular school year or whether we are in the midst of a global pandemic and a racial reckoning in our nation.
We are counting on our youth to change the world and make us proud. But we all know it takes all hands on deck to make sure that happens. You know, it's also been said that it takes a village to raise a child. That has never been more important or more relevant than today.
At the end of the day, our values are still the same. Parents are experts on their children, and there is collective wisdom in the experience of the community. And what we hope to do, based on our work this year, is to continue to bring those voices together and use that wisdom for the benefit of our children.
We have the ability to replicate those pathways for success for us, for our schools, for our community.
And our students embodying the spirit that we are.
What we want to resonate with the framework is that even in this moment, even as we have reconfigured our methodology going into the 2020-2021 school year, the core remains. We hear you, we see you, and we are you. Again, the framework is drawn from a Black epistemology, Black ways of knowing and being in the world. Everything from the composition of the team itself, to the framework, to our methodology, to the way that we unpack the data that we receive, all resonates with that. We hear you. We see you. We are you.
As a mother, I see you. I hear you. I am you.
I see you. I hear you. I am you.
I see you. I hear you. I am you.
I see you. I hear you. I am you.
As the principal of Humes Middle School and a product of the North Memphis community, I just want everyone to know that I see you, I hear you, I am you.
I see you. I hear you. I am you.
We see you, we hear you, we are you.
We see you, we hear you, we are you.
I see you, I hear you, and I am you. Thank you for attending our session today. I hope you learned a lot about a way to shift the paradigm that will give you an opportunity to engage with families, Black families in particular, in a new way. Our principles of unity, resourcefulness, learn from the past, engaging together, and communication are critical to a new lens for how to work with all types of families in a way that's mutually beneficial for schools and for parents. Our contact information is coming up shortly. Please feel free to reach out to us. We would be happy to engage with you and explore our ideas more.
Aya, Iban, Nkonsan, Akoma, Sankofa.